Hello, everybody, and welcome to the very first episode of a brand new show here on Theology on the Rise. This is Theology in Film. My name is Caleb Sherbanek, and I am your co-host, or one of your co-hosts. Over here, joining me on the couch, I'll let you introduce yourself. Who are you, sir?
Yes, I am Evan Sherbanek. There's no relation between us.
A very distant cousin.
Yes. Believe it, the similarities are coincidental.
Yes.
Yes, so I am the other co-host of Theology on Film. I am happy to be on the couch. I have heard great many things about. I'm a huge fan of the podcast, actually.
One of our most ardent supporters, I might add.
The original. One of the originals.
Yeah.
So this goes to show if you support us hard enough,
You're going to be on the show.
You
get your own show. Yeah. Yes, so I am completing my third year at CLBI, which is the internship year. So I have been interning at a church, St. Paul's Lutheran Church in Rowley View, and I'm completing that up real quick, and I am happy to be here.
And over here, next to Brother Evan, we have, you know him?
Yeah. Tried and true, Seth Hansen. I'm more of a guest today. These two, they're quite avid film watchers, and they've inspired me over the years to just get into the art of filmmaking more. So I'm just excited to just have fun with this episode and interact with a movie that we all really liked. So
It's wonderful to have you on. And finally, we are being joined by Mr. Nathan Carlson. He is the sound man / techie guy for us in the studio today. He's going to make sure everything is running as it should, and he's a very capable fellow. Say hi, Nathan.
hey, everybody.
Okay, so let's give a brief description of what this is about. So this is a new show that we're doing here on Theology on the Rise. Theology in Film. This is going to be probably a shorter run mini-series. We're thinking maybe 6 to 8 episodes. And the idea behind it, Seth kind of touched on it already. Evan and I both are big film enthusiasts. We've grown up watching movies.
Yes.
It's
a big part of
our
lives.
childhood.
Yeah.
And Evan has created. He has his own stuff on YouTube and stuff like that. He's created short films and stuff like that. We've our whole family actually has done a lot of that growing up, creating films, home movies, and things like that, and just having fun with it. We're inspired by film, and we go in and create things in turn. So for this first episode, we are going to discuss a film by the name of Silence. And Silence was directed by Martin Scorsese. I believe it was released in 2016. It's going to be embarrassing.
Sounds about
right.
Coming up on 10
Thereabouts.
years.
Yeah. And so Martin Scorsese, he was a Catholic growing up. So this is a film that I think
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a film. It's about Jesuit priests. It's about Catholic priests. So, it's kind of a personal film in a lot of ways for him, which I think that might factor into some of the analysis that we do potentially. But yeah, Silence. So I think the way we're going to look at this, we're going to maybe give our general thoughts on the episode or on the movie, and then after that, I think we'll get into some. We've all taken notes. We've watched the movie individually, taken notes individually, and we're just gonna talk about what we thought and what came up for us. So, what did you guys think of this movie? Was it a hit? Was it a miss?
Take it away, Evan.
Yeah. Well, it was surprising for me. I've heard about the film before, so going in, I had some presuppositions about it, but I was surprised by the honesty of it. It's a very honest film. It doesn't really. It presents the situation as it is. And do we want to kind of summarize what the film is about for those who haven't?
Good idea. Would you be fine?
Yes. 2 Jesuit priests travel to Nagasaki in Japan. I don't know when the movie takes place.
16 something.
16.
Yes.
There's no phones. They didn't fly over. They took a boat over. And they're looking for their friend Father Ferrero, who who disappeared, and according to reports, apostatized. They gave up the faith, and so they're going there to rescue him. And they encounter trials. There's a lot of it's, and in a lot of ways it subverts a lot of expectations, because you go there and the first thing that the Jesuit priests see when they get there is they're terrified. They're hiding in the caves.
Yeah.
And then
The Christians are.
there's Christians there, and they're Japanese Christians, and they're so faithful, and they take them back to the village, and you know you get a really good essence for just the danger that's posed on their life just by believing in this thing. You know, they despite the fact that they will be killed if they are found to be Christians, they have little like straw crosses and
Yeah.
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 they keep for themselves.
Yeah.
That was something that was so interesting to see, because I mean we take it for granted, because I mean you're wearing a cross on your chest, but the importance of images, whether that be of Christ or a cross, how much that meant to those Japanese villagers, because they never had it. Like when one of the Jesuit priests played by Andrew Garfield, he was doling out these crosses, and it was just this.
And they're just like begging. For it
Yeah,
almost.
yeah, it's like they're begging for
something.
food.
Yeah.
It really was a beautiful, beautiful scene. Sorry, keep going.
Yes, no, there was I have a note in here somewhere. There was an interesting quote that in the scene you're talking about where he's giving out the crosses. Andrew Garfield's character says something surrounding that. It's in here somewhere.
It's something like he expresses maybe a little bit of concern or apprehension at just how desperately they want those.
It's something like he fears that they value the symbols over their faith, sort of
Right.
thing, which
Right.
is interesting. It's fallen back into that idolatry that is so present today, but especially in the Bible.
Yeah, and I think that's an example of like that was kind of like the agony like of the priests when they get there, and you know they find these Christians and they're scared, and they're like they only come out at night. They do mass at night. They do everything at night because the Japanese are literally like hunting them down, looking for them, going from village to village, trying to root out the Christians. And you know, like that quote about he's worried that they're valuing the images more than the faith itself is kind of a, you know, I think it just speaks like the character in that moment is just agonizing over like wanting to provide the spiritual like leadership, you know, in proper teaching and proper theology, so much, you know, and just noticing that there is like starting to delve into some idolatry possibly. And, you know, and that explains why he leaves that village and goes to the other village in the first place. Like he hears about this other cry for help from these two villagers that find them. And, you know, Adam Driver's character is like, we can't go. It's too dangerous. But, you know, Andrew Garfield's character is just so gripped by this, you know, compassion for sure for these people. It's like, I have to. And a part of that is like, you know, they need a leader. They need a spiritual leader. And yeah. So I guess we can, on that note, we can kind of, this is one of the very important parts of the film is the character of Andrew Garfield, and his story is obviously, you know, front and center. Adam Driver and Liam Neeson are kind of just, they're there to sort of accentuate, like, I think Adam Driver his character largely is there to kind of
very much
act as a
parallel
foil.
to,
Yeah.
it's almost like the other side of the coin,
Yes. Yeah.
especially in regards to their different fates and what happens to them. And there's a lot of discussion that could be had there, like which choice is the right choice?
Right.
Is there a right choice?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Adam Driver, I guess like Adam Driver's character is kind of a foil a little bit, or he's maybe like a voice to Andrew Garfield's own doubts and skepticisms and things like that. So, and then Ferreira is kind of like, you know, these other characters, how I saw it was they sort of act as different parts of Andrew Garfield's personality in a way. Like they're their own character, but there's, here's Andrew Garfield's future if in Liam Neeson if he does apostatize, and then here's Adam Driver kind of encapsulates again like the skepticism and doubt. But I don't know where I was going with that, but
I'm not sure if I agree on your analysis of, because Adam Driver for me, because it's interesting because when Adam Driver and Andrew Garfield split up near the middle portion of the film, and Adam Driver says, "I wish I had as much faith as you," but then later we see him sacrifice himself to in vain try to save those people who are being drowned, which is something that Andrew Garfield didn't end up doing.
And that scene is striking because it's like Adam Driver's character in that scene becomes the main character, and it's like Andrew Garfield's character doesn't even exist. He's watching.
He's just sidelined.
He's watching from the beach.
Yeah.
As Adam Driver's character shows this incredible display of courage and like sacrifice and love for his Christian brother and sister. Like just a slight scene, like because I think as the show kind of gets its legs, it's like, oh, Adam Driver's character, he's kind of, insensitive, quick to speak, almost like a Peter.
Very frustrated.
Almost like a Peter. And then,
when it comes down to it,
it's like, well, this guy's like, he's fueled by action. And not that Andrew Garfield's character isn't. But yeah, that was something I noticed.
Yeah. Yeah, his character, like, even just like how the poster shows, he's like kind of like Andrew Garfield is front and center, and then Adam Driver is kind of a little bit behind him. I thought he was going to have a bigger role in the movie, but even for his limited screen time, there's a lot going on with Adam Driver's character there.
Yeah.
Like definitely like a Peter sort of figure, but when rubber hits the road, like he demonstrated incredible faith and like you say, courage and sacrifice.
And it's interesting that you say Peter, because my initial thoughts was Andrew Garfield is Peter, but that's something we could probably discuss at some point.
Should we jump into the discussion on?
Yeah, well, do you want to hear your initial thoughts?
Yeah, kind of like what you said. The show was honest, and I was not expecting that. Like I kind of went into the movie. And I was like, oh, Hollywood's going to do what Hollywood's going to do. And it's going to slip jabs here and there at Christianity. It's going to make the Jesuit missionaries look like evil, the bad guys who are forcing their religion. Like we've seen it time and time again when it comes to Hollywood. But it was like, it was the complete opposite of that. It was like, if anything, it made the Imperial Japanese, look bad for persecuting these Christian villagers. Yeah. But also, the themes of the title of the movie is silence, and the silence, I think that speaks to the silence of God and how the Christian encounters God's silence and God's hiddenness. Right. And it's just like what a raw, real thing. Like where is God? And I speak as someone I haven't really had, one of those stereotypical writing in the sky God moments. God has appeared to be very hidden in my life at times. And so just because that was the topic of the film, it was like, oh, this is real, this is honest, and this is actually an accurate depiction of what the life of the Christian is. It's grappling with this question of, where is God? Job in the whirlwind. And it didn't provide an inflated view of Christianity. Like it was a movie about suffering, people suffering in the face of persecution. And it didn't sort of sweeten the deal by just being like, okay, have faith. And when you have faith, everything will be better. It's like, no, when you have faith, everything becomes worse. And that, as theologians of the cross, it's like, no, you have you don't try to just get rid of suffering. You bear that suffering and you bear that cross, and it's not something that we try to fix. Not that we don't try to fix, but when avoiding suffering becomes our ultimate good, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Because like many times during the
Where we get in
movie,
ourselves.
Andrew Garfield's praying and just asking God, God, where are you? Where are you? How can you let this happen? And I think 2 or 3 times it happens where Andrew Garfield's character says, but you bore the cross. And so it's like, where are you, God, in this suffering? But wait, you suffered for us. And that's where the answer is. And so I was really impressed with Scorsese's
Me too.
and the script writers. And if we're doing ratings, I'd give it it was a bit long, but it didn't feel like, oh, this is too long. Like maybe Batman did.
Sure, yeah.
But
Every scene had a point.
I'd probably give it an 8, honestly.
Yeah. Totally, yeah.
Maybe it's too early for me. Maybe we should have saved that for the end.
We'll do that.
Before-
We'll do more of that at the end. We'll give our final thoughts and
even think about
do a
it.
rating kind of thing. But that's a good idea. No, finally a good I guess good representation even of what it is to be a Christian. Finally, there are so many of those Christian movies that, like you say, the message ultimately boils down to just believe and it'll be okay. It's
God's not dead.
yeah, God's not dead, right? But here is a real and honest and impactful, like you resonated with Andrew Garfield's character, and I resonated with his character and his inner turmoil, and we've all, just a fantastic way of really encapsulating the struggle. I think that we go,
And I feel like a film like this is so much more helpful to the Christian as opposed to a lot of those other movies, where so many Christian movies, they're so concerned of, we have to present an inspirational story.
Right.
And then to the point where it's this is inspirational, but it's unrealistic. And
I don't feel like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There's this disconnect, and that doesn't bring us closer to God. But then a film like this comes out, and it's a fictional story, but it encapsulates that. I feel totally abandoned by God. There's no right answer in this situation. There's no way out. God doesn't appear to this guy and suddenly make the bad guy of the movie a Christian, and then So there's a comfort in that when we watch a movie like Silence, where it's
I can relate to this. It's not a fairy tale. This is real.
And that's why it's so shocking to me that this didn't come from a Christian director.
Yeah, it really taps. I think this is kind of beside the point, but I think it is actually based upon a book, if I remember correctly. And I don't know how faithful. I think Martin Scorsese being, I think the book is much more clear in its pro-Christian message. There's a little bit of ambiguity in this film, which I think is a good thing, because a Christian can watch it and love it, and an atheist can watch it and love it. And an atheist is probably going to come out of the movie with a totally different interpretation. He might, in preparation, I've watched clips of Silence on YouTube and stuff like that, and in the comments section, everyone is talking about the impression of so many people seems to be this anti-Christian message that they got from it, where it's the Japanese are so right for defending their culture and defending their beliefs and all these things from these, evil Christians that are coming in. So it's just that is a tremendous strength to the film, just on a filmmaking level. This thing is accessible to anybody. And even if you're not a Christian, we all know we've all suffered. It's the universal truth of being human is you're gonna go through some hard times. So even on that very basic level, we can anyone can relate and get something from the movie. Back to Andrew Garfield. He's a very interesting character. I think he's handled so well, and he's got some interesting stuff going on.
Before the show, we were discussing a little bit, and we were getting different interpretations.
Yeah. So I guess we'll jump into that. My interpretation is I'll be quick, but my interpretation is he is a deeply compassionate, deeply faithful man. Like this is recognized by the character of Adam Driver as well, where he's like, I wish I had your faith. Andrew Garfield is a man who believes. He believes very strongly, and he's totally gung-ho about this mission to find Ferreira, and he's so passionate about doing mass and doing the sacraments for these villagers and shepherding this flock. But I think there's nuance to his character. Like he's not a Christ figure, and I think the movie does things to show us that, to remind us that this isn't a Christ figure. This is Adam. This is Andrew Garfield. I think he wrestles a little bit at the start after they found the villagers and they've spent this time with the villagers, shepherding and guiding them. And I think Andrew Garfield, my interpretation is Andrew Garfield starts to see himself a little bit as a messianic figure. And I'm interested to hear your guys' thoughts on this, but there's a couple moments that make me see this. And he doesn't end the movie in this place, actually in a very different place. But there's a line he says as they're on the island and he's kind of overlooking, and he says, it's a voiceover, and he says, if we die, referring to himself and Adam Driver, the church in Japan dies with us, right? Where he's got this we're the last hope for Japan. And I just thought that struck me watching the movie, and the thought that went through my head is like, hold on, like the church was here before. Was the church not here before? They found the Christians there. So there's that. And then there's the moment, which I think is, can be looked at in so many different ways, but the moment when he looks in the water and he sees his reflection becomes the visage of Christ. And he's really, he's kind of very interesting. I really don't know what to do with that completely, but he's kind of in this manic state of mind because he starts laughing hysterically when he sees it. I don't know if maybe that was like a euphoric kind of, I see Jesus, and Jesus is with me and he's in me, and I'm following in the footsteps of Christ. Maybe it was something like that, right? But I think there's a couple moments like that for me is like giving us insight into his mind, and what he's thinking is like, I have this Christ-like, or this incredibly significant purpose and thing that I'm supposed to do here, and I have to do it. Or if I don't do it, then Japan is lost. So yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think you raise a good argument, especially in terms of if we die, the church in Japan dies with us. Like, what is that if not some sort of
arrogance?
Messianic claim almost. And and it's not that he's claiming to be Jesus, but he's getting a bit of a complex.
Yeah.
But so I don't know what to do with that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because other than that, I saw Andrew Garfield's character as being just a faithful minister of the word and sacraments. And when it came to seeing his reflection, where Jesus is in the puddle as he's looking into the puddle, the thing that came to mind is the suffering servant. The chapters in Isaiah where we see the servant is not those prophecies are not, and I mean this is an interpretation of the suffering servant passages, but those passages like Isaiah 53 aren't only about Jesus. They're also about Isaiah, and they're also about so there's a commonality between us and Christ. That's why it's called the suffering servant, because who is the suffering servant? Who is the topic of those passages in Isaiah?
Yeah.
And so I was thinking, okay, Andrew Garfield is identifying with the suffering of Christ and the object of his faith, as the book of Hebrews says. That's Hebrews, right? The founder and perfecter of our faith. Like that. So that's kind of, it wasn't him seeing himself as Jesus, but he was seeing Jesus in himself. Maybe
Right.
if that is a okay wording. I don't.
There's and it comes up again later. There's a big emphasis on I mean, it's just something that the characters rely on a lot is the suffering of Christ. And we're going through all this terrible
Right.
all these terrible trials. So did Christ.
Yeah.
And I agree, or I think I relate a lot with what you're saying. With when he sees Christ there, it's almost Jesus saying, like, "I've been there,"
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Andrew Garfield's laughter could be interpreted as like this relief, or it could be, he's like, he.
I think he was like overcome with loss. Like
Yeah.
he had seen his friends being slaughtered for their faith. There's probably some like dehydration and
Oh, yeah.
starvation happening
That
there.
probably is
Yeah.
a big part of it.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, because there's this part, and it shows up a lot in the movie. We see the face of Jesus, and it's like a haunting shot because it's just black and
Yeah.
Jesus' face. And first, it's his face, like no music, no sound. It's just Andrew Garfield's voiceover. Later, we see it's his eyes, and then of course we see in in his reflection, and finally, I mean the image of Jesus that he has to step on near the end it's the face of Jesus, and we hear the voice of Jesus, and that's really interesting. But something that Andrew Garfield's character says when the face of Jesus first appears is when he's lying in bed and he's mulling over the mission he's about to go on, and he's talking about how he imagines the face of Christ. And one thing he says is, Andrew Garfield's character says, he looked as he did when he sent Peter. And I kind of clung to that, and I was like, okay, so this guy is Peter. Andrew Garfield is Peter. Because, I mean, we have this guy he's so earnest and eager about the faith, and he's going out there, he's doing it. And he and Adam Driver are so confident before they leave. They're like, there's no way Ferreira gave up the faith.
Yeah. Right.
There's no way he would betray Christ.
Yeah.
And then they go, and they're there. And, the whole thing falls apart and all that. And despite Andrew Garfield's character's earnest and I'm not going to betray Christ, I'm not going to betray, he of course does.
Right.
And then we see Jesus at the end, and he's or the image of Jesus, and he speaks and he says, "It's okay. Step on me," is what he says.
Yeah. Deny me.
Yeah. Which is, and I instantly saw this is Peter we're looking at here.
Right.
Here's something I want to pitch to you guys, because I think we should also touch on some themes.
Absolutely.
But for the viewers, so in order to escape the persecution in the show, you would have to renounce your faith.
Right. Yeah. Apostatizing.
Deny Jesus. Maybe you would spit on a cross or curse the Virgin Mary, because they're and another element of this rejection of Christ was they had a little, like an icon or a carving of Jesus that the villagers would step on, and that was their way of renouncing the faith. I won't do too many spoilers, but at the end, Andrew Garfield goes to step on the icon of Jesus, and he's struggling to do so, of course, because he doesn't actually want to renounce the faith. But a voice speaks up from the icon, and it says, "It's okay, step on me." And it's an incredibly gracious voice that's a very comforting voice.
Yeah.
But what I was struggling with is this Satan that wants to lead someone away from the faith,
or
that
is
is
it
masquerading, or is it the gracious God that we serve, that despite our rejection of him, he reinstates us?
Yeah.
Just as he did with Peter.
Yeah.
So I was like, what do I do with that? What do I do with that rejection? Is that voice, because Jesus says, whoever denies me before man, I will deny.
He does say that, but what else does he say?
I don't know.
There's it's and that's he does say that. Anyone who denies me, I will deny before my Father in heaven. He does say that. But I think you mentioned this during the movie, and I thought it was I kind of clung to this as well. But there is forgiveness. There's forgiveness for that. Peter denied Christ 3 times. and
Reinstated.
there was
3
reinstated,
times,
come back, come back, right? Always come back.
I want to get back.
So
to
it's,
that.
so I see it with that in mind. Like if God was a God who said, you know, if you deny me, I deny you, and that's it.
Yeah.
Then I think there could be you could make the case that it was the devil trying to lure him into doing it so that he could damn his soul or whatever, right? But because we know that God is the God who reinstates, who calls you back, like always, then I think, at least for me, maybe just my own personal headcanon, but I see that scene as what you were describing. It's the gracious God, who is at the moment, even before our sin, is there saying, I'm waiting for you on the other side.
Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, but a difficult scene. And the characters, I like that the characters, obviously Andrew Garfield struggles with that decision, but that scene earlier in the movie when they're still with the villagers, him and Adam Driver, and one of the characters, Mokichi, asks the question, do I step?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And Andrew Garfield, in this like moment of he's clearly struggling with what he's going to say, but he says, yes, trample, step, you know, if it, I forget the context exactly, but to I guess to save themselves from torture or death.
Yeah, if it means that you survive the persecution, you know, step on the icon of Jesus.
But and then Adam Driver looks at him and says, "How can you say that? You can't say that, right?" Yeah. So it's the movie itself is wrestling with that, just as we wrestle with it. You know?
Yeah, it provides no answers, just more question in like the most beautiful way.
Yeah, because that ambiguity is important, I think, because there is ambiguity within the scripture teaching itself, where it's like maybe not ambiguity, but a little bit of uncertainty. I think actually ambiguity is the right word, I think, because both are happening. If you deny me, I will deny you before my Father in heaven, but also, you know, I will forgive everything. So, that's I like that the movie itself is kind of commenting on that dilemma. Right, like it's,
and it just comes to mind one of our first episodes of Theology on the Rise we did with Pastor Ted Hill, who's a great mentor and man of faith for us all. And one of Ted's just catchphrases or buzzwords or whatever, buzz phrases, he says, you know, one thing I know, or one of the things that he knows, is that Jesus is totally bent on saving.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, in spite of our rejection, in spite of Peter, he is hell-bent, literally, on saving Peter. Or we had Chad Bird on, you know.
Yeah.
Jesus is, in Genesis 1, you know, the promise is already there to, you know, the Son will come and, you know, he'll crush the head of the serpent, you know, his heel will be bruised. Like, even amidst the rejection, Christ is already there, planning to reinstate. And so I think that voice calling up from the icon, step on me, it's like, I don't even know what to.
If I'm going back, I'm so subscribed to this Peter theory. To me, that's like Jesus looking at Peter after he's denied him 3 times and locks eyes with him. The rooster crows.
We see his face right after he does it too, right? So that's even like that cements that analogy a little bit.
Yeah, which I had another point about Peter.
What do you guys do with? I'm gonna butcher his name. Kichijiro.
Kichijiro.
Something, Kichi. Call him Kichi.
But like, I asked this because it's like I ask, what do you do with it? Because Andrew Garfield's character doesn't know what to do.
Yeah.
This man has consistently sold out other believers. He's betrayed, but he always comes back asking for forgiveness. And he does it like what, 4 times? Throughout the film.
Times.
And like Andrew Garfield is just torn up. You know, but every time he says, I forgive you in the name of the Father,
Really
the Son, and
struggles
Holy
with it.
Spirit.
Yeah.
It's like,
With the most resentful look on his face all
Yeah.
the time.
yeah.
Very reluctant.
It just eats at him to do so.
Yeah.
What do you guys do with that?
to me-
Or what do you guys think of that whole
Yeah.
subplot, sub-theme?
Okay, recess over. I decided to drink a cup of coffee and water before we sat down. That was a big mistake. So I had to run off. But we were just talking about Kichijiro. The the Judas character.
Yes.
Yes.
And Seth, you asked the question, what do we make of his character?
And the theme of the
What he
struggle
represents.
Andrew Garfield has with
Right.
Well, as a viewer, it's like, this guy is.
scumbag.
If you don't,
Yeah.
if you deny Christ one more time, and he keeps
I
doing
swear.
it, it's like, come on. But as I'm watching it, like every time, like, he's
Yeah.
running off after this little wimpy little run, he's running away,
the run is so funny. It's like 3 times.
and I'm watching him go, and it's like, this guy would betray Christ for the most insignificant things. But then I think about it, and it's like, this guy is doing this to save his life.
Yeah.
I've betrayed Christ for far less.
Yeah.
Nothing.
And it's humbling. He's a humbling character.
Yeah.
And there's a lot we could talk about him. I love that he's despite his unfaithfulness, he is also simultaneously so faithful, in that he keeps going back.
Yes.
Nathan's gonna have a field day, and that he keeps going back to Andrew Garfield's character for confession. He's so faithful about it. He's like, this is if I could just touch the rim of his cloak.
Yeah.
But what and then we cut spoilers for the film. By the way, you should have watched the film already.
This is spoiler-filled analysis.
We cut far many years into the future, and Andrew Garfield's character has apostatized. He's living as a Japanese. He's working with Ferreira to suss out any kind of Christian imagery and get rid of it. And he's in his house with his Japanese wife and Japanese children, and Kichijiro comes to him for confession. And it's like,
And he fights Kichijiro
Yeah.
on it. He's like, no, I'm not a priest anymore.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I can't give you the absolution. But like, Kichijiro is so adamant, and eventually he does the liturgy of the confession
gives
and
me chills.
absolution with him.
and I almost feel like that the most faithless character in the whole movie saves Andrew Garfield's character.
Yeah, he does.
That's a great
It's
point.
He does.
Kichijiro's faith that
Oh,
keeps Andrew Garfield.
maybe reignites it for him.
That's a great point.
That is fantastic. Wow. Yeah. What a. Yeah. Like you say, like you spend the movie hating this guy and just, what is the matter with you, man? Like your entire family, died for their faith, and you continue to deny. But he is the audience surrogate, at least if you're a Christian. Like you're looking at yourself, in Kichijiro. So
What's the saying? Judas betrayed Jesus for 30 pieces of silver, and I do it for free every day, or something.
That's good.
yeah.
There's a gut punch for you viewers.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot going on with his character. He is very much like a Judas archetype. I think that imagery is
Andrew
made
Garfield's
very
character
clear.
even says,
calls him
"Go
that,
do what you are about to do."
Yeah.
And what's really, this is an aside, but he says, "I wonder what Jesus was feeling when he said
Right.
that. Was he angry?
Was he angry, or were his words filled with love?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because Andrew Garfield sure was angry.
Yeah.
in that
Yeah.
moment.
And that, I think, is another another moment in the movie that really kind of highlights Andrew Garfield's humanity and the fact that this is not Jesus. Like he even says this, like I don't know if it's really as significant as I thought it was, but when he's being kind of carted through the city, and he's on the back of it was a donkey, I think, which is another moment of like incredible symbolism and meaning. And they're throwing fruit at him and stuff like this, and Kichijiro's in the crowd and he's following, and he says,
Why are you following me?
Stop following
Stop following me.
And then in my mind I was like, yeah, this is not Jesus.
It's the opposite of follow me to
to the polar
to-
opposite of
Yeah.
it, right? I thought that was interesting.
Huh.
Yeah, and
Wow.
again, not as a diss to Andrew Garfield's character. I think he's so well written, and he's such a human character. But just going to that point of, this is not a story of a messianic figure. He goes into it, I think, quite confident and sure of himself. We're going to find Ferrer. We're going to bring him back. We're going to do all these things, and he doesn't end up in the place that he thinks. But to loop it back to the Kichijiro, his final confession, he was he was there to absolve Kichijiro at the end there, which is not the not at all the place that he thought he was going to end up in this journey, but he was there, and he was able to hear Kichijiro's confession, and maybe that was even just the whole the whole point of it all. Yeah, very interesting character.
And I will not spoil this part, but I will allude to it. Following the absolution of Kichijiro, the end of the movie, like the final scene where the end credits roll. The film ends.
We're doing spoiler talk. Like you can just say it. You can just
No,
say it.
I will. I'll leave it up. But
Okay.
There's a wonderful, just reinstatement. I would say, because we've used that term a couple times. There's a reinstatement of Andrew Garfield's character, and there's just hope at the end of the movie. It's a brutal film, but the ending is, I think, an incredible testimony to the King that we serve. Yeah.
And that it gets into the question of apostasy, and are you damning your soul if you
Right.
publicly denounce your faith, and how can you reinstate your faith? Does it require a public pronouncement of your faith? And so as I was thinking about this, because it's a question, because it's like, okay, yeah, these guys, because by the end of the film, they are living
They are
as
Japanese.
outwardly they are Buddhist Japanese people, but there's allusions like Father Ferreira.
Yeah, great
says
moment.
our God when talking.
He
about
says
the
our
Christian God.
Lord,
Our
and then
Lord.
and then what does Andrew Garfield say? He's
You
like,
said
"Did
our-
you say our Lord?" And he's like, he says,
I doubt it.
I doubt it.
Yeah, and he gets up and leaves.
But it was a slip of the tongue. There's
Yeah.
there's faith alive in him, right? Like it's not
Goosebumps.
It's not
Look at
him.
that boy.
it's,
Zoom in on that.
Let Nathan get
yeah,
catch this.
zoom in. But there's faith there, and it's not because of him. It's because Jesus is holding him, right? Like it's
If I can go back to Peter
Yeah.
once again.
yeah.
Peter publicly denounces Christ 3 times, and at the end, Jesus reinstates him. But what does he do before he reinstates him? When he walks up to
Right.
Peter, he takes him aside. It's just Peter and Jesus talking. It's just, there's no like public. It's just Jesus reinstates Peter alone with Peter.
Right. Because it really isn't anyone else's affair.
Yeah, and it's like, that's so powerful to me because it doesn't. Peter's salvation is not dependent on telling everybody that he's a Christian in that moment,
Yeah.
which shows God's faithfulness, I think.
Sure. And maybe that is even the meaning behind the title of Silence. The illusion with the moment with Father Ferrero when he says our Lord, and then like Seth was saying at the end there's an affirmation, a moment of affirmation of Andrew Garfield's character's faith, and it's there's illusions that despite the outward exterior being so visibly lost, that their faith survives in silence, like in it's not outward at all, it's not external, it's and that is, like you were saying, Evan, in the privacy in which Jesus pulled Peter aside and affirmed his faith or reinstated him. It's the external, the outward appearance, like isn't what makes someone a person of faith. It's I don't know. There's something there. I don't think I'm explaining it well, but I think there's something there with the title and the fact that, alluding to the fact that they continued to be faithful in silence. I don't know.
One of my favorite lines in the film, Andrew Garfield, when he's just discovered that the whole village is destroyed, he says, "It was in the silence that I heard your voice," and that's after he's been read. He has this big long. It's a beautiful, beautiful monologue. He talks about are you even there at all?
That's the Psalms. Right?
Is it the Psalms?
In the silence, maybe I'm reaching.
Because I feel like he was quoting it from something. I don't know.
Yeah. Sounds like a quote.
It's tremendous. Look it up on YouTube.
I made a church history connection, like a straight line analogy. Like with this, well, and I mean, it's a movie about the persecution of the church, so it should have some it should be easy to draw connections with church history. But what the connection I made between silence and church history was the Donatist controversy. And I don't know how familiar you guys are with this, but this was, I believe it was the 4th century, and this was what sort of really cemented St. Augustine as one of the most influential theologians of the church. And so under the Holy Roman Empire, or not Holy Roman Empire, it wasn't Christian yet, so forgive me, but under, I think it was Emperor Diocletian, this was when one of the most severe persecutions of Christians happened. Christians were asked to give up the scriptures and renounce the faith. Like they were to give up the things of the faith. And many bishops did. Many bishops of the church did. In order to not be fed to the lions in the Colosseum or, whatever the mode of death was. Years later, those same bishops that gave up the scriptures, that renounced the faith, came back to the church and asked to be forgiven and to be allowed to be a part of the church again. And the Donatists, under a guy named Donatus, I think, they said, no, you denied Christ. Like, we can't reinstate you with the church. You're not a brother. You're not a sister. And Augustine, in his magnum opus, Theology, said, no, you have to. You have to reinstate them. You can't deny them forgiveness of sins. And that's always been an interesting heresy, early church heresy for me, because it's like, you want to side with the Donatists.
Right.
Yeah, because they
and
gave it
Augustine
up.
comes along and it's just like, no, you can't. This is something which the church stands or falls upon.
Right.
Like, you need to forgive their sins. And I just like that was the connection I made. Like, Kichijiro or whatever his name is.
Kichi.
Constantly being asked to be forgiven and reinstated. And Andrew Garfield does not want to.
Yeah.
And the audience sits with Andrew Garfield.
Totally.
It's just like, no, you can't forgive us.
Yeah.
Wait, we have to. That's what we do.
Yeah.
And so it was just like, it was, I made the perfect connection between, Donatism and early church history and my own sort of hesitancy to forgive people's sins.
Yeah. I love how as the confessions go on, he does the first confession mostly voluntarily, or no, the first confession I think is the one on the mountain, isn't it?
Yeah, overlooking the
he's
sin.
And he's like,
overjoyed to...
He seeks them out.
oh, okay, right.
Kichijiro runs off.
He
so
won't
Andrew
accept the
Garfield,
rosary.
Right.
Andrew Garfield goes after him.
That's
and says,
right,
why
yes.
did you run? And forgives him.
And I think that's the moment when you see that real like reluctance and even like disgust on his face when as he does the confession, the pardoning, and then the second, I think it's the second time when they're in they're captured and they're at the camp, and he's over there, Kichijiro is over like on the far side of the cage, away from everybody else, and Andrew Garfield very, very reluctantly goes over to him, and he takes his confession, and then as soon as he's done it, he gets up and leaves, like just like can't even doesn't want to be around this guy, right?
Yeah.
He even says like or like I think there's a comment about Kichijiro like smelling bad or something like that, just like he's just totally hopeless, nobody want, and it's only out of a sense of like obligation to his duties as a priest that he goes over to him. But I love when they're in a different camp, I think, and Andrew Garfield is being tortured by the sounds of the torture that is happening to the other Christians, and he's just completely almost broken, and Kichijiro runs to him, take my confession, take my but I like a change has happened for Andrew Garfield by that point, and he's exhausted, he's bedraggled, but you don't see the same, there's an exhaustion in his face, but there isn't the same like disgust and reluctance, and he just kind of like that does the sign of the cross to him or something.
Yeah,
there's something I thought that was really,
well, at that point it's just obedience.
Yeah, and
well, it
and
really,
that's his character progression.
It really forces us to think. It's like, how often do we have the posture towards brothers and sisters? It's like, okay, I've forgiven you once about this one thing.
Yeah.
And now I have to forgive you again
for the same thing.
Second thing.
Yeah.
A third time, a fourth time. But I mean, the gospel, Peter says, do I, forgive 7 times?
Yeah.
70 times.
Yeah. I kept thinking of that verse.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, man.
And I guess that, like for a guy like Kichijiro who is so, he's weak and he's cowardly and he keeps messing up, but he keeps going back for that repentance and that forgiveness. Like he's so faithful in that way. But for a guy like, and so there is, the movie is communicating that there is forgiveness and like another chance. There's always another chance for a person like that. But for a person like Father Ferreira, who is just utterly crushed, and it seems to be like have been completely broken down and rebuilt. Like he has that Japanese family. He's wearing his hair, the clothes in the traditional Japanese way. And he's arguing with Andrew Garfield, about he's comes up with so many ways to justify like that this is fruitless, this is pointless. Japan is a swamp, nothing can grow. There are no roots to take place. And explains how the Japanese can't even comprehend this like Son of God concept, and he points to the sun. There is their Son of God, and just like he's a man who has been completely broken down, completely beaten down, and but again, like that, he has that comment where he says, there's a slip of the tongue. He says, "Our Lord," right? But honestly, I see Ferreira as he's kind of a Judas figure a little bit, because there's obviously still faith, and we don't know if he's like actively engaging with it or if it's just Christ holding him. But like, I lost my train of thought. But is there forgiveness for him? Like, is there? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't see the same posture of humility in Ferrero as I do in Andrew Garfield and Adam Driver. Like, Ferrero is entirely indifferent to the slaughtering of Christians.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, in fact, he aids it. Mm-hmm. He's like, he's Saul, he's
writing books
holding
about
the coats while the Japanese stone the Christians. And so I don't know what to do with Ferrero. I don't like, there is that slip of the tongue, and so part of me hopes for like, okay, there's something there.
Yeah.
But if there was something there, would he still be aiding in the persecution
How
of
can-
Christians?
like,
how
how
could
can
you
he
do
just
that?
stand by?
But
Yeah.
then once again, it's like this posture that I have towards guys like Kichijiro and Ferrero, where it's like my judgment and my proclivity to withhold forgiveness. And it's like, thank goodness I'm not Jesus.
I think-
so I don't know what to do.
Yeah,
Well-
I think if anything, sorry, just really quick, it speaks to like this man is not living as a Christian, and the fact that he is just standing by as Christian or not, innocent people are being tortured.
Yeah.
Like again, like how can there's no fruit, there's no evidence of his faith, but if anything, it's a testament to that our faith. It's like Christ is holding him in spite of himself, right? And just the way that Christ's grace transcends, like, I don't know, it's a conversation, but if anything, I think maybe it's a testament to that, like,
Well,
in spite of himself, in spite of his
And-
evil deeds, like Christ is holding him.
Christ is totally bent on saving Ferrero.
Yeah.
And totally
I'm not
loves
giving up.
Ferrero.
Yeah,
Oh,
like
yeah.
he's not
Like-
giving up.
Completely loves him in
Yeah.
spite of his
Yeah.
persecution of Christians.
Mhm.
Yeah. No,
I-
that's a great point.
I don't know what to think about Ferrero because, I mean, he's hard to read. It's like, okay, does this guy
Yeah.
have any faith at all? Does that faith that it's alluded to near the end come about after
Right, like we don't know.
Andrew Garfield's character has apostatized? Because it almost seems like he has a lot of anger towards God. He's writing
Sure,
books about
like
the stain of Christianity,
yeah.
and he's lost faith in at least the omnipotence of God, where he says God could not speak to these Japanese
Right,
people,
right.
which
Pretty significant disbelief.
and I noticed that, I mean, because we see a flashback of when Ferreira apostatizes, and there's a difference between the way that both characters
Right.
eventually crack. Because Andrew Garfield, he does it. Andrew Garfield. We know all the other characters' names except Andrew Garfield.
Yeah,
But he-
Rodriguez, I think it is.
Rodriguez.
But we
But
made it
he-
this far.
But he does it in order to save the people in the pit who have apostatized already. And you could draw some Jesus parallels there, where the man with faith sacrifices himself to save the faithless, to raise them
Right.
up. But
Yeah,
Liam Neeson's character Ferreira, he apostatizes after he himself has been in the pit,
yeah.
where he eventually cracks, and I wonder what the character difference is.
Yeah.
What do you guys think of this? Blanket statement. Garfield is Peter, Ferrero is Judas. One received the forgiveness of Christ, and one despaired
Right.
and rejected Christ.
Yeah. Again, yeah. I think there's definitely some Judas imagery happening.
Because
with
Peter and
Ferrero.
Judas, oftentimes in like biblical theology, they're set against each other.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
they both doubted and they both
and
rejected
both denied.
Christ.
Yes, right.
But one sought Christ in his rejection and received forgiveness and reinstatement, while the other one despaired and
Right.
killed himself.
Right.
That's
really interesting.
because
Yeah.
there's something that Liam Neeson's character says to try to convince Andrew Garfield to apostatize. Is he says, "If Christ were here, if Christ were here," and he finishes the sentence as far as I can remember. He says, "If Christ were here," and it's like, okay. And I'm really fascinated with the character of Judas.
Right.
As I understand him, he was waiting for Christ to do something,
Right.
Forcing his
Right.
hand.
force his hand
Interesting.
to do something.
Very
so
interesting.
Liam Ferreira says, "If Christ were here,"
Right.
and okay, what would Christ actually do if he were here? He would die.
Yeah.
But it also in that, if Christ were here, that the vibes that gives me is the serpent. Did you,
Right.
did you like?
Right.
Did God
Did God
really
really
say?
Right.
It's almost deceptive in nature and manipulative.
And that goes with the what they keep saying, but it's only a formality to step on the
Right. Just a
step on
formality.
the face of Jesus. It's just a formality. It's
Yeah.
I think at one point when Kichi
Kichi.
does it, they say, well, he did what he was obligated to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Downplaying the significance of
Downplaying.
it.
Yeah. Did
'cause-
God really say?
Right. Yeah. serpentine.
So there's tension there.
Yeah.
It is not just it is not just going through the motions to step on a picture of Christ. That,
Yeah.
like that
That is
significant.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
But that there's forgiveness for that.
Yeah,
too,
is it enough to
it's-
cut you off?
It's
from
not
what-
enough to
And
condemn you.
and that just speaks like, as Christians, we never, or we try our best never to downplay the gravity of our sin. Like, our sin has cut us off.
Yeah.
We are dead in our sins.
Yeah.
We're not weak and frail. We are dead in our sins.
Yeah.
You know, so that is Satan.
Yeah.
Like, it's not that bad, you know,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
you know, it's just
a
for
picture.
making excuses for it, you know, and that's how that's one of the ways that we try to justify it. God will forgive me because it's not that bad. I'm just stepping on a piece of, you know, but, you know, proper sound teaching does not downplay. No, this is
Yeah.
big that you're doing. This is,
And we do
this
that
is
all the
killing
time.
you. And you're,
It's
and we do
just,
it-
it's not that bad. It's just videos. you
yeah,
know, it's-
yeah. No, this is killing you. Like, this is death. But, and the part that is so hard sometimes to wrap our minds around is that, yes, this is so big, and this is so wrong, and this is so evil, but Christ is, and again, like, hearing the voice of Jesus before he even stepped, like, he's there before we even commit the sin,
Yeah.
you know, to save us.
What a transcendent film, man.
Man.
This talk is just like, I gotta rewatch this because
Yeah.
you guys are bringing some great points up that I didn't even consider. It's like one of those movies that I think is gonna come alive even more every time you watch it.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
gonna be
Totally.
like that Shutter Island for different reasons, but
Yeah.
Might be one that you return to
yeah,
every
like,
couple of years.
What
or
did
something
I
like
miss?
That. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the can of worms that we're opening, but just thinking about the Andrew Garfield's character's wife. Because there's a note that they make about how she was alone with him when he was dead. And then later we notice the cross in his hand. It's who put the cross there.
Yeah.
And they make a note of the wife. There was no sign that she cried or anything. So what I take from that is she knows where he is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And did God use Andrew Garfield's character in this terrible situation to give the gospel to this woman and the family?
Yeah. I didn't think
But
that.
it's all in silence.
Yeah.
It's not.
There are no
stated.
answers.
It's not stated. It's all implied. Like details like that make you go, there's something happening. I can't see it. It's not being discussed, but in silence, like, the faith is alive, right? Yeah, that's again, like, in silence, like, God's silence is not silence is not proof of God's absence, but often evidence of his presence, right? Like, God is working in the silence. That's,
I like that. That's a great
he's
line.
he's stirring things up. He's, you know, in silence. Like, you can't sometimes you can't always see it, but it's, you know, he works in that space. Yeah. Yeah. So
Can I share a Bible verse
please
before?
please.
I alluded to it at the beginning, but we're theologians of the cross, and ultimately our questions about human suffering and the silence of God get answered in the person and work of Christ.
Yeah.
And that work is his suffering and death upon a cross. So I want to share with the audience here Deuteronomy chapter 29, verse 29. So that's an easy one for you to remember. And this speaks, I think, to the doctrine of the hidden God versus the revealed God. And this is what Deuteronomy 29:29 says. The secret things belong to the Lord our God, but the things that are revealed belong to us and to our children forever, that we may do all the words of this law. You know, the secret things that belong to God are, why is there suffering? Why is God quiet? Why is he hidden? Why do bad things happen to good people? These are all, you know, secret things that we can't even begin to have the answer to. But the things that he reveals, that the revealed things belong to us, is what the passage says. The thing that has been revealed is Christ on the cross. And his absence in our suffering, his hiddenness, only drives us to where he's revealed himself. He hides himself so that he can reveal himself elsewhere. So he's like, don't look for me here. Look for me there. And
Right.
it's the cross. And
Right.
it's him taking on flesh to deal with sin and to suffer in doing so. And so I think the movie sort of tackles that in a roundabout way.
Yeah.
You know, I don't. Scorsese isn't, you know, a theologian, but
Yeah.
he did I think a masterful
Good
job.
Darn good job. Yeah.
Get him in a pulpit.
Yeah. With even like again, like it's a very mature and like sound grappling with these questions. Like it's you know, I think Scorsese is a skeptic. I don't know that he's a believer. I wouldn't, but maybe in silence, you know. But there's there's a maturity that I think has happened for him, and it comes through in terms of like he doesn't see it. He's not coming at this movie from explicitly like Christian perspective, but there's the ambiguity, and the fact that there is ambiguity, I think, is incredibly mature and incredibly reflective of our faith, where there's mystery and there's, you know, so again, just like if like from a skeptic, this is a profoundly sound and mature description of the faith and
Absolutely.
and these things. Yeah. Okay. Should we do final thoughts, final ratings?
Yeah.
Do you guys want a minute to think about? Do you want to just give a rating, or do you want to give maybe? I think that was my wrap up that I just said. So, I'll say I'm going to give this one. I'll say that before our conversation, like an 8 out of 10. I think after our conversation, it might have to be a 10 out of 10. And like I don't. It's just I do not give movies 10 out of 10 ratings. I don't.
Wow.
Do that. But this is
big, folks.
And
Alert the media.
I don't know that a non-Christian would give it a 10 out of 10.
No.
But it engages, and it engages with my faith in ways that I don't know that any other movie has. And so I think it's very biased, but
You guys just witnessed a movie buff give this movie a 10 out of 10. We're setting the bar high for this series.
Only downhill from here.
all downhill.
I mean, like I said at the beginning, it's terribly honest. I respect the honesty of it, and I respect the it's done very carefully. The creators obviously understand the source material, and they give it a lot of respect, even if there's no sense of like bitterness towards.
No.
And if there is, it's like it's not bitterness that is dismissive of the faith in any way. It's maybe there's like anguish or sorrow regarding things. I don't know the minds of the filmmakers, but it gives it the respect. It gives it a lot of respect, and I think it can be an attractive film to. I think we're biased. We're going to enjoy it more than other people because we're so connected to the material that it's talking about. But it's also just a darn good movie. And my biased review is probably an 8 out of 10. It's very good. It would be higher, but I was stressed the whole time watching the movie.
That's fair.
Like, it's really good, but holy,
It'll probably be easier to watch.
It'll be easier to watch it again, but it's like, holy,
not a comfy watch.
nobody's having a good time in this movie.
Yeah.
Being a Christian sucks.
Don't go to Japan is the moral of.
Don't go to Japan in 1652 or whatever. Worst mistake of my life.
Yeah, I mean, at the beginning of the episode, I said it was an 8.
Yeah.
But upon hearing your guys' thoughts and extrapolations, I'm not going with the 10, but I think it's a good 9.
Wow.
Yeah, just honest. I can't say that enough. Honest. To a topic that I think we just all feel so deeply, the hiddenness of God. And I think, art evokes something in us. And it was uncomfortable because of what it evoked in me.
Yeah.
I really disliked Kichijiro.
Yeah.
I really disliked portrayal. I wanted to be a voice of unforgiveness. It
elicited those
if I
feelings in you.
and that's uncomfy to sit with. Like, oh, why am I so quick to withhold forgiveness, even when there's repentance? Like,
right.
So the fact that that's what the movie did for me, I think, is just a testament to the piece of art that it is. And I don't like to use the term art. I think that's highfalutin language that's just kind of
Sure.
corny, but like, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. 9 out of 10.
9 out of 10, 8 out of 10, 10 out of 10. I guess we all liked it. Nathan, I want you to come here. Come.
Get on camera and give a
Just
rating.
give us your rating from there. Then you didn't watch the whole movie, but in light of our conversation, in light of what you've heard, yeah, that's perfect. Let's hear your rating.
Should I speak into the mic? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I had a lot of good. I think similar to Seth, it was really like thought provoking more than anything, and I'm with Evan though. Like, it was hard to watch, so I think I'm gonna go with the 8 out of 10 as well. Yeah, I wasn't here watching you guys talk about it the whole time, but I think it was really really well done, and we could probably go on talking about this. These guys could go on talking about this for a long time.
We've been going for like hours.
Yeah.
Really?
And now that I'm here, we could just keep on talking about it because I've got my own thoughts on it. But yeah, go watch this movie. Don't watch it at night. It's kind of scary. Not gonna lie, uncomfortable to watch, but it is thought provoking and very meaningful, like we've talked about, like these guys have talked about. Yeah. So
Check it out.
Thank you, Nathan. Let's give it up for Nathan.
Bring us home, Caleb. Mr. Sherbanek, number 1.
Number 1, number 2.
Did we specify that you guys are brothers?
I think that was.
Oh yeah,
pushed
we
over.
are actually related, by the way. Yeah.
I think
are
you made
actually-
the joke about being
Yeah.
they're brothers, you guys.
Yeah.
We are brothers.
I'm the older.
He's the
one.
older one. Yes. Yeah, guys.
No, he
thank
isn't.
you.
We're still
Why are you
just
lying?
lying.
Still stringing the audience along. Caleb is the older brother.
This is Caleb and Evan Sherbanek.
Can't give him a straight answer.
And Mr. Seth Hansen with Theology and Film. Guys, thank you so much for watching this episode. We really hope that you enjoyed it, listening as much as we enjoyed talking about it. Hopefully, you can leave some comments in the comments, now the description down below. Tell us if you've seen Silence. Tell us what you think. Tell us what you thought of this conversation. If there were some stirrings or something that came up for you in hearing us talk about it, or if you watch the movie yourself as you're watching the movie, we'd love to hear your thoughts. We're hoping for some audience engagement. I think that would be super wonderful. So
Pay attention to us.
undecided on the next movie, but to give you just, I guess, a tease to cover movies like Silence, which are explicitly religious in content and in material, in meaning. But I thought it'd be cool to do some secular films at some point.
Yeah.
And
Star
do
Wars.
Star Wars. That's actually that's what we were talking about. We would maybe take some key moments from the Star Wars series and
Also, if you like any viewers who have an idea of what a good movie would be to
Yeah.
do a discussion on,
Yeah.
let us know. So
yeah. Yeah, we want to. The plan is to bring on maybe a different guest every week. So we had the wonderful Mr. Seth Hansen with us this week, and maybe next time we'll have someone else. But we might.
John Piper.
We may. Yeah, John. He's gonna come. He'll zoom in.
John Piper, will you stop screaming into the mic, please? It's okay. Settle down.
They can hear you.
I love John Piper Gregory.
Let's wrap it up before we get some hate
wrap it
mail.
up.
Guys, thank you so much for watching this episode. We will catch you in the next one. Take care.
God bless.
Take care. Bye bye.